Hey everybody, welcome back to Smith Party of Six. I'm Audriana Smith. So I've been mentioning that I'm going to share with you guys our student binders that I have our kids work out of throughout the week. And so I just wanted to pop on to do a quick video to just kind of flip through the student binders and show you what those are and how we use them. So I thought about doing this whenever I saw that a lot of people do like a morning menu type of thing that will have, kind of like a little short schedule on it, like things that they're going to do in the morning time, and kind of like include like the riches and stuff on it. I don't know if you guys have ever seen those before. If you haven't, just totally disregard that. You don't need to know what a morning menu is to be able to know what I'm doing here, but I kind of expanded on that idea. Each of my kids has their own student binder. They were allowed to design like a picture or something for the front. So this one is Lexi's, and Arwen has this one, and Elijah never designed something for this year, so his is just blank right now. So inside I have each child's binder divided into sections. When we first open up their student binder, in the front pocket here, if it's one of my kids who still uses a timeline, they have their timeline in the front there. Hold on, and I'll just open it up and show you their little accordion style timeline. And this first section, when we first open up, it's kind of just like a general overview. So last year in the very front, what I did, I made like a schedule for each student and I put it in there just so they always knew what they were going to be doing. I decided not to do that this year just because I like being able to kind of be flexible, and I don't want them to be disappointed if they're not doing a certain subject for the day. So just to show you an example though, if it's something that you want to do, this was Aspen's schedule for last year. He wanted to have one too since the other kids had one, and his was the first one that I found from last year to be able to show you guys. So everything in yellow was the block that they did with me. Of course, each column is a different day of the week. The green are meal time so that they know when food is happening, and the stuff in orange is family stuff, and then anything written in white is something that they are doing independently on their own. So that's just kind of how I did it last year, and of course each child's schedule would look different. He got all of his stuff with me done before breakfast because he's my early riser. He still does the same thing this year. But for like the older kids who sleep a little bit later, then their stuff would be after the family stuff while he's doing independent things, just little stuff on his own. So that's basically how I did their schedules for last year. And I had those in the very front whenever they would first open up their binder. But since I decided not to do that this year, then what they see when they first open up is their reading log. So like this one is Lexi's. Let me show you. Elijah's has a little more filled out. He's my voracious reader, so he reads more stuff this year. So you can just kind of see I have their reading log there. They put the date that they completed something, the title of the book, and the author's last name there. So then after their reading logs, I just have this sheet here that I actually found online. I don't even remember who made it. Actually, maybe I typed this up. So after that, I have this sheet here that has kind of like a good habits type of reminder in there for them. I ended up typing this up one year, just kind of like condensing all of the habits into a single document just so I could see them very neatly and clearly as I'm thinking about like what habits we should be focusing on next. So if you're a Charlotte Mason homeschooler, you know all about habits. So we have like our little habit tracker in there. And then we come to our next section. So each section I have divided by just one of these little tabs. And our first one that we come to is recitation and memorization. So in this section, for example, I have the books of the Bible because they're still working on memorizing all of those. And then I also have whatever recitation poems that they're doing for that specific term. So Lexi has 2 different recitation poems this term, so they were both in there. And then when the term ends, I will switch it out to her next set of recitation poems. In our homeschool room, they also have a bin like in one of the cubby spots right next to their personal cubby that has all of their books and stuff in it. And it is full of file folders, and all those file folders are basically the way that I organize our year. So it has everything in it that I will need to put into the binder later on in the year. It sounds more complicated as I'm describing it than what it actually is. It's not that big of a deal. I just have folders where I have the stuff organized that needs to go in here later on in the year. That's it. So anyways, I have those in there. And then also, for example, like with Arwen, she is still working on memorizing the map of the United States. And so for her, Well, first off here, I'll just kind of show you. In the very front, she has her map that she's working on right now with the United States and the states that she has learned like specific things about so far. So she's learning about the placement of all of them on the map, but then we also have like weekly readings about each state, kind of like a spotlight on a couple states each week that we're doing that. And so those are the ones that she's had a spotlight for so far. But in her recitation and memorization section then, after her poems here, then she also has the United States map that she works on memorizing during her memorization time on her own. So then after our recitation and memorization section, we come to the riches. So in a Charlotte Mason education, that's things like poetry, folk songs, hymns, composers, artists, all that kind of stuff is considered the riches. So that's what I have in this section. I made up these sheets. For example, this one has our artist for term 1 on it. He's Tintoretto. I put a picture, like a self-portrait of the artist on there, and then all of the different paintings that we'll be studying by that artist. I also have our composer stuff for this term on there. So we don't have an official composer this term through Ambleside. They're doing Renaissance music for this term. So I just put a picture of like some Renaissance music happening and then the different pieces that we would be listening to. After that, I have her specific poet for term 1, which is William Blake. So each child, they all have the same artist and composer, but they have different poets. So Lexi has William Blake in hers, Arwen has Walter de la Mare, and Elijah has Alfred Lord Tennyson. And then underneath of their picture and everything, I have just like a short little bio about them that we read at the beginning of the year to kind of get to know whatever poet they're going to be studying for that term. So these were just the papers for term 1. I have papers just like it for term 2 and 3, and they are in those bins that I talked about next to their book cubbies downstairs in our homeschool room. Okay, so after we get past our artists, composers, poets, all of that, still in the riches section, I put the lyrics for whatever songs that we're currently working on. So they have a hymn and a folk song every month. The hymn and folk song right now that they're doing is For the Beauty of the Earth for the hymn. And the folk song is The Ash Grove. And I just keep all of those for the entire term in here so that they can flip back and look at them at any time because they love just going over the lyrics again. And then at the end of the term, I will put the hymn sheets into like these little hymn booklets that we have. It's a collection of all the different hymns that they've ever learned. I haven't started doing that with the folk songs. They kind of want me to leave the folk songs in their binder. I don't know. We'll see what we end up doing. I'll probably leave it in there for them since that's what they want. But yeah, so it has all of our hymns and folk songs in there from this current term. When the term ends, then I'll go ahead and switch at least the hymns out. So the next section after all of that is our character lists. Now it says character lists on here. These are still the section titles from last year that I used. And last year I just had a piece of paper for like each book that had lines that they could make a character list to kind of help jog their memory whenever we came back to a certain book. This year instead I'm putting them on like these little cards that they can cut out if they want to. Kind of reminds me of like D&D cards. If you've ever played Dungeons and Dragons, we're kind of nerds, so we do that with our friends. But anyways, so they're like these little D&D basically cards that you can put like the character's name at the top. There's a spot for you to draw a picture, and then there's a place down below where you can write kind of like a little blurb about each character to kind of help jog your memory. Oh right, that's who that is, like whenever we come back to the book again. Basically all of Lexi's that are in there right now are from the tales from Shakespeare that we've read, and I don't make them draw a picture. It's only there if they want to. So she hasn't drawn pictures for each of her people. Elijah usually does with his, so he has a little bit more on his stuff. But that is that section. So we just use these for whatever books they're actually applicable for. So for example, with something like Pagoo, I'm not going to make her make a character sheet for Pagoo because really the main one that you're following the whole time is Pagoo himself. And you might count like Old Instinct as a character, but it's not really one of those things where she has to remember all of the different sea creatures that she meets as she goes along the way. I'm not trying to have her do that, but it's something where if we're gonna have character names come up all the time, I want them to be able to easily refer back and see, right, okay, that's who that was. It's mainly to jog their memories and not like, you know, I'm trying to make you do extra work type of thing. So after that section in the binder, we have the maps and resources section. And this is the last one in our personal student binders. I do have another idea for something that you could add on to the end if you wanted to, but this is the last one in ours. So in maps and resources, the first thing that we have is our list of the kings and queens of England. This comes in handy so much during Island Story. It just lists out all the different kings and queens and the dates that they ruled. We refer back to this a lot, especially when they're working on their timeline at the end of the week, kind of putting on anybody else that they learned about during that week or any big event that happened during that week. It's nice to be able to refer back to this sheet. We also use a certain website, which I will link down below, that has the portraits of the kings and queens. I just didn't want to print all of their portraits out. That would kind of be a bit much. So we just refer back to that website whenever we want to be able to put a face with a name. After our kings and queens sheet, then each child will have different maps. So for example, Lexi has this one of the West Virginia counties that we've been working on slowly but surely. She also has this West Virginia map that we did toward the beginning of the year where we labeled different cities that are important to us. I thought that that would be nice for them just to see places where we travel a lot. She also has one in here for Marco Polo's travels that has like the line and everything where we're mapping and tracking the different towns that we're reading about that he stopped in. And they all have Shakespeare play settings as one of their maps. So it kind of just depends on each child what maps they have in there. Elijah has like one for Men of the Mississippi, for example. So it has the whole route of the Mississippi River on there. And as we're going down the Mississippi River with Min, the snapping turtle, then we put the different locations that we learn about on there. He's also learning about the time period in history when the Revolutionary War happened. So we have some colonial maps in there. Arwen has Tree in the Trail this year. So she is learning about the Santa Fe Trail. So she has a map in there where we are tracing the Santa Fe Trail and learning about different points along the way. And she is also in like medieval time period in England, which I didn't actually print a map for. We have one on the computer that we use for that. But that is a good place at the end to just kind of house all of that kind of stuff so that your kids can easily flip to that and refer to the maps whenever they need to. So we don't have any more sections after that in our student binder. The only other thing that might be helpful is somewhere in there having like a turn-in folder if you don't have somewhere for them to put their completed work that's written already. So for us, I just have them put it in the front of that bin that I was talking about where I have like all of their other papers for the year organized. They have a folder in the very, very front that's like their turn-in folder, and they all just put their stuff into their specific turn-in folder that's next to their specific cubby. So it just makes it really easy. I have everybody's stuff separated out already. At the end of the week, I just grab it out, look over the different written narrations or things like that that they've done before I go ahead and put those into their portfolios. So for you, if you don't have something like that, then a student binder might be a good place to put it. And then it also makes sure that you kind of stay on top of it, because where I have mine, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. So I really have to purpose to remember, like, right, I need to go and look at their written narrations for the past week so that I can put those into their portfolios and kind of make sure that they're grasping things. So if you have it in their student binder, then that kind of forces you to do it a little more quickly, or their binder is going to start getting pretty bulky pretty fast if they have lots of written narrations or other things like that. All right, and those are our student binders. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and drop them down below. I love to hear from you guys. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more homeschool content, and I will catch you guys next time. Bye.